Welcome back, Red Spotters. Another show here on the Red Spotlight Entertainment Podcast. I'm your host today, Alexis J. Soto, and I'm joined by Peter Martinez, who is suffering from severe anxiety. How are you doing, Peter?
Well, let's use that word. We're gonna use that word currently.
Yeah. I think it's fair to use that word. Okay, welcome everyone. This is episode 212. I'm Alexis. This is Peter. Today we'll be discussing two films, as we usually often do, especially in the ramp up to the end of awards season. And we have two films that have both been nominated for Academy Awards. One got 11 nominations, the other got a single nomination. And nobody in the world would have expected which one got 1 and which one got 11. But here we are. And the films that we're discussing are Joker, which we have reviewed previously before, but this is the first time that Peter Martinez has viewed the film.
Mm-hmm.
Directed by, and starring Joaquin Phoenix. And so we'll get to that movie first, and Peter's thoughts and all of the surrounding crap around it. And then we'll get into The Lighthouse, which stars Robert Pattinson, William Dafoe, and is brought to us by the filmmaker that gave us The Witch. I don't know his name by heart. Do you know it, Peter?
I do, but I forgot.
It's a little late, guys. I'm sorry.
The theme, I don't know if you've noticed this. I love themes. I love doing themes.
Oh, yes, you do.
The theme of this episode is loss of sanity. So we got Joker, we got The Lighthouse, we got
Alexis's, Peter's.
Yeah, loss of sanity.
Mm-hmm.
The world's society. All right. Let's do this thing. The Joker, baby. Joker. Directed by Hammergerberger. Put on a happy face. During the 1980s, a failed stand-up comedian is driven insane and turns to a life of crime and chaos in Gotham City while becoming an infamous psychopathic crime figure. And then, Joaquin Phoenix, Robert De Niro, Zazie Beetz, Francis Conroy, Brett Cullen. Okay.
So first and foremost, you're probably the last person on Earth to have seen this movie.
Yeah, probably, yes. Well, that's not true. The Academy Award individuals that give the nominations, the Academy hasn't seen any film this year yet.
That's right. That's so true. But it's fair to say that many people have seen this movie already by the time that we're viewing it now.
I mean, looking at the discourse, it seems like they talk like they did, so.
I find it interesting. You seemed very much reluctant going into this, considering all of the damn things being said left and right about this movie.
Yes. Well, there's two reasons. I found all the discourse surrounding it really dumb and really annoying. Like, it's like the way I felt, I'd imagine is the way I felt if like I didn't really like, I liked Star Wars, but just kind of, you know. Mm-hmm. And then you get online and you look at all the just god awful discourse, and it's like, I don't care to see that. Like, I don't want to interact with any of this. I feel like it's probably the ways a lot of people are. That's the way I was with Joker. So that's the first reason. The second reason is the trailer. I really like the trailers.
The trailer, the first trailer especially, was wow.
It was really good. It was really good. I see there's been some discussion as to like, are trailers art? I've seen some people say that.
Mm-hmm.
Your favorite nemesis, Patrick Willems, I think came down on the side of like their marketing tools, not art. I view
Of course, of course.
I love you, Patrick Willems. This guy, he's your sworn enemy though.
I will never forgive him.
Never forget.
I will never forgive him. He ruined something special for me. Go ahead.
I very much think there are. There's so many trailers that I go back and look at. Even hey, get up, stop. Sorry, my cat's trying to kill me. There's many trailers that I go back and I'll watch, even for films I don't like, but I'm like, fuck, that's a good trailer. That's a really good trailer. And
Yeah.
I think they tell their own little unique story within, 1 to 2 minutes. I think they're very
The
much
Suicide Squad trailer.
that was a great trailer. That was one of the best trailers I'd ever seen. And then you look
Yeah.
at the film, but it's like I'll go back and watch that trailer and imagine the movie I had in my head when that trailer first dropped. Yeah, but then my second reason really was at the end of the day, I'm like, it's probably gonna be what I think it is and not much more. So that's kind of what put me off from seeing the film. That the first reason, and then that second reason. And then I saw the film and it's like, yeah, pretty much what I thought it would be. It's should I just jump into how I feel about the film?
Yeah, but it's fair to say you just you wanted no part of this movie, it seems like.
Not really. It just got too stupid. But I did see it. Saw it here. In an undisclosed area. In an undisclosed through an undisclosed avenue. I saw it, and throughout the film, it's like, yeah, like after reading the interviews that Todd Phillips gave, I'm like, yeah, I believe he wrote this film.
Mm-hmm.
I
Absolutely.
believe this was the film, and also I believe, like, yeah, this is the film that a lot of people on the internet love and a lot of people on the internet hate. I'm like, yeah, this makes sense. I think if I compare it, and I told you this comparison, to another film, it pretty much reminds me of Batman v Superman. And again, I like Zack Snyder. I really do. But with that film particularly, it just feels like they were really trying to seem like they were saying something, and then just a lot of like vague language is used, and like fluffy language to hint at like a deeper meaning. But there was no thought process to what that deeper meaning would be. So it just comes off like a teenager's like poem book got put through an AI script or whatever and came out with what they used to make the film. And it feels the same way here. And it's like, you definitely seem like you wanted to make a film that says something, but you also seem like you really had no idea what you wanted to say. And everything needs to look ultra cool and flashy and seem deep. And it's not much of any of those things. But I understand, to me at least, but I understand how a lot of people are like, oh my, the same way they were with BVS, where it's like, oh my God, didn't you see? Like, there's a cross in the background when Superman died. It's like Jesus. Jesus is like Superman. Did you get it, guys? Because he like saved them, and Jesus saves. It's like Superman. Never heard that one. So like it's a lot of that, and that's the way the Joker was. And it's like what I heard coming out of the film, it's like from other people before, when they went and saw the film before I saw it. was like, okay, the performance is good by Joaquin Phoenix and the score is good. And I'm like, yeah, I'll probably think that, and then I'll think the same of the rest. And then yeah, that's what happened. um I'll be honest, I don't hate the film. I don't dislike it. It at least like it's like with BVS, it's so overly long, and like it just seems like a random like collection of scenes, and it's just so relentlessly dour and black. But with here, it's like, yeah, Joaquin Phoenix is good. It's shot pretty well. The score is definitely really good. I understood, like it seemed like scenes made sense when they would go from one scene to another. It doesn't seem exactly like a giant random scenes thrown together. But yeah, it very much seems like a film student got really into fucking score, like back in the 90s, when everyone was really fucking into like Tarantino, and then all the film students are like, oh fuck yeah, I'm gonna make movies like that. And then they'd make overly stylized, like it's like all those Tarantino knockoffs that came off that are like nowhere near as good as Tarantino, but it's like it's fun enough. This feels like someone's like, oh yeah, fuck yeah, I love Scorsese. Oh, you just get high and watch Taxi Driver and
King of
the Comedy, as everyone and their mother has pointed out, and it's like, oh yeah, fuck yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna make
because
make a film
it's pretty
like
overt. That's what it's borrowing.
Oh, it's
from,
beyond overt. And then he comes out and it's like it's nowhere near that level, but it's like I wasn't bored. So I don't hate it. Like it's it's entertaining enough.
Let me clarify something. There's really nothing in the movie that's, to me, that is worth getting angry at. I think where my overt dislike of anything associated with this is, number one, Todd Phillips, because you are right. When you read those interviews and you watch that movie, and it's like, yeah, that's exactly what the movie he would write. And you see certain things like, there are certain things in the movie that, certain jokes toward little people, and then at the expense of little people, which is only just a substitute of the same tired joke he made toward gay people 10 years ago. Yeah. Like, literally, it's the exact same joke. And it's like, okay, that's not really any kind of growth. You're just putting that same joke in a different kind of direction.
I thought that would mean something too, or go somewhere, but it didn't. No. It didn't at all.
It was weird. It was weird because it was brought back up again just for no reason.
It felt like it was literally there for one gag. And yeah, it very much was, LOL, he's short. And it's like, okay.
Like, that's just tired. That's beyond tired. And then the monologue at the end where the Joker is on the talk show thing, very much, like, honestly, like, the more I see that monologue, the less I see of the actor, and the more I see Todd Phillips just regurgitating those words about, I thought comedy was subjective, and you can't say that. It's like, what the fuck?
It's like some weird soapbox freaking monologue. It feels like a 10-post like Twitter thread brought to life, and it's I don't think the writing was good at all in this film.
No, at all. And that's kind of my biggest issue with this movie overall, is Todd Phillips repeatedly failed the movie. But I do want to say clearly is because it's a film, and I think it's good enough for what it's trying to be. But come on, it's not up there with Irishman or Once Upon a Time in Hollywood or even 1917 in terms of quality of film. Like, the fact that this is the movie that got the most nominations at the Academy Awards. I know that we talk about that show as if it means nothing, and to us it means nothing, but it still has the title, the Academy Awards, and this is the film that they give it the most nominations.
It still has the influence to make or break careers. Let's be real.
Yeah.
That's probably the most frustrating thing about the Academy Awards. But it's like, okay, the film is definitely like heavy-handed,
Yeah.
That's one thing, but it's like I feel like if you're gonna make a very heavy-handed film, then like you need to make up for it in other ways, right? So it's like if your film is much more subtle, then I'm using my brain to like
Which this movie isn't.
no, it's not. But like if it's less subtle and more complicated and it's like okay, then I'm using my brain to really break down these characters, how I feel about them, what would I do in that and breaking down, a better written script shot and filmed in this way. It's like okay, good. Parasite. Uh but with this, it's really whoa. But I think if you're gonna be like a really heavy-handed film, then you gotta make it entertaining in other ways. Like maybe the way in which it's shot is really ballsy and interesting, and they do a lot of crazy, cool, interesting things with the way it's shot, with the way you see him losing his mind, and the way you. I just feel like there's a lot of films that show like the breakdown of someone's psychosis and they shoot it in weird and fun, interesting ways that really puts you within the headspace of that individual. And with this one, it's like he's crazy because he's dancing. He's a dancing queen. That's how we're gonna show he's crazy. And it's like, yeah, okay, like I guess I get it, but because it's so heavy-handed, and I think while it's not filmed or directed poorly, I think it's actually pretty well. It's not enough to make up for the lackluster, blunt script. I think that's where I kind of...
Yeah, I agree entirely. And so I think in general, Todd Phillips is the biggest issue. And, it's one thing if your film is, I mean, there are plenty of films that aren't very substantive, but are still great in their own way, and they can be that. There are films that have no characters, but can still be great in their own respect. Not every movie has to say something. Not every movie tries to say something. But I think where I come down harder on this movie, just as a generality, and then I'll get to you and to your issues, but it's trying very hard to be a message movie. And if that's what you're going for, this movie failed completely. Because it's that same situation of throwing as many things at the wall. Like it's kind of trying to create the illusion that you're saying something substantive while actually saying nothing at all. I found the film to be empty, vapid, and just honestly kind of, to me, and I want to make this clear, very troubling. Because I think this movie sends mixed signals in terms of what politics it's trying to eloquent, but it's not saying anything, so I feel it comes off saying something more stupid than it actually. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's
kind of like when you're writing an essay and you kind of like don't know exactly what you're saying, so you throw in a lot of flowery language to try to and just kind of hint at like your point, and it's like, yeah, hopefully this will just skate by with the teacher, and it's like, yeah, the teacher will be like, well, yeah, okay, they get he's trying to say something. Yeah, we can do spoilers, right?
Of course.
Okay.
And the movie's been out since October. Everybody's seen it. Made $1 billion.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, honestly, like I said, having like surprisingly, like the politics issue, I thought that would be my biggest issue. That's like my least issue. It's like, yeah, it's really muddled and unclear with its politics, but it's like, okay, whatever. But there's other stuff that it just kind of like bother me, just from like a film perspective. Like, I had this line since I saw the film, so I'm gonna whip it out. I care about as much about the Joker being a Wayne as I did caring about Rey being a Palpatine. Like,
yeah,
I don't care. I don't care. I'm tired of. I do, what was the point? I didn't care. I did not care at all about like his mother lying to him about who his dad was. Maybe yes, maybe no.
Who cares?
Like who cares? Who cares? And I get like I guess it affected him, but like it feels like the only reason they're doing that is it's because it's a Wayne. You know what I mean? And that like connection.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like, oh, it's this big deal, and it's like, I don't care. Like, it's very similar to me to the Ray Palpatine thing, and it's like I get what you're going for, but it's so much more. Like, there's a million other interesting things you could be doing other than going like, do you see who they're related to? Oh, that's a shocker. That'll mess with their psyche. And it's like,
why were the Waynes even in this?
I like the idea of just turning the Waynes into like, oh, they're the greedy asshole rich 1%ers, fuck them, and then like trying to turn Joker into like the hero or some shit like that.
Well, it seemed that way at first,
Yeah,
but then it
seemed that way, and it's like, that's another thing. Like, I feel like a much better writer and maybe even a director, you could have had something here. You could have had something really interesting. I'd say
I don't know. I mean, just real quick,
Uh-huh.
I was just watching the director's cut of Doctor Sleep, which is great, by the way. We have to review that at some point.
That's true.
And we will. But I was just thinking, you know, the idea of Joker as a horror movie sounds really fascinating to me.
Mm-hmm.
As a straight up like psychological horror film, which I feel would only benefit what this movie was going for if it was doing that.
Mm-hmm. But I also don't feel bad because it's like, I feel like Parasite is that. Like, it's saying everything that Joker thinks it wanted to say a million times better, executed with a much more interesting script, much better direction, much more nuanced, like direction, like everything. It's like the better version of what they were trying to do. So it's like, I'm not that mad. This is like much more the like very popcorn version of that, where it's like, hey, society's bad, but oh look, he's related to a Wayne, and oh no, look, he gets beat up all the time. It's I don't know. It's sort of like when they have. It reminds me of those movies that are like oh, he was where they give one character every tragedy humanly imaginable, and it becomes less realistic because of that. Like, oh, he grew up on the streets and he lost all his arms and his legs, you know, and he was beat up and he was this and this and this and this and this. And it's like, okay. Like with this, at the very beginning, it's like you see him dance as a clown, and then he gets the shit beat out of him, and it's like, oh, you know, people are mean to him. That means he's gonna start killing people. And it's like, yeah, people kept saying, like, a lot of people argue, like, oh, this film adequately shows how, like, society failed. What's his name? Fleck? Is it
Arthur Fleck?
Arthur Fleck? And it's like, not like I keep wanting to compare it to Parasite, where that does such a better job at examining the way in which society itself, the way it's structured, fails people. Specifically. And with this, it's like,
I'm just gonna say, Peter, and I don't know if you're of the same mind as this, but I just think the movie fundamentally failed to say anything.
Yeah, I mean, I guess,
what
like,
did it say?
I don't know. I get rich bad, like it's
Yeah,
because everyone says,
I'll tell you this, and I'm sorry I don't want to cut you off, but I told this to you the minute I walked out of this movie months ago, is that I felt uncomfortable what fundamentally turned me off about the movie is that it was portraying this class warfare, this pro-class warfare equals anarchy and massacre and chaos. And to me, it was like saying if people rise up for their rights and to not be walked over, then that equates to anarchy and to everything falling apart, which is what I feel that the neoliberals keep trying to say about progressives.
Yeah.
Now, that may just be something that I took away with the movie, but because nobody else seems to have gotten that. But it, like we go from people protesting to straight up murdering.
Yeah. So it's kind of weird. It's like, well, what side do you fall on?
I don't know what side is. The sides aren't defined at all. They're just kind of loosely.
It just kind of comes off as like everything's fucked. But like, okay, so I keep trying to let me get back to this original point because I think it plays into what you're trying to say until you so rudely cut me off. A lot of people, and I think the movie tried to make this case, is like, oh, society failed Arthur Fleck, but it's like, kind of. It seems like a lot of his issues are like more personal, really.
Exactly.
Like
yes.
Not from like a societal structural thing, but just like even if he was in like the best society ever, he would still be pretty fucked up. Like when he clearly had mental issues and like they try to say like, oh, they took away his pills, but it's like they didn't seem to be working for him before that at all before that. His what's it called? Like he had a therapist, right? Like he was provided a therapist, but again, like they just kind of weren't.
What did that do?
Yeah, that really didn't help him. And then you could say like, oh, she didn't care. And it's like, I guess, but I feel like I wasn't shown that with a better therapist he would be better. I don't know. Maybe
what you're saying is the film presents the loss of the therapist and the medication as reasons for how society failed Arthur. But at the same time, when you watch the movie,
he's already fucked before that. Yeah.
It's clear that they're not really helping Arthur to begin with.
Yeah.
So,
and then like
that doesn't track.
He gets like the shit beat out of him on like the streets and stuff like that. Yeah. And it's like partly due to the first time it's not even because of the fact that, you know, his afflictions or anything. It's just because they're assholes. Like, that's true. He was just doing his job and then they come and beat him up. And it's like, this is very much like movie universe schoolyard bully shit, where it kind of pulls me out of the film. Where it's like, okay, like this shit isn't it's much, I guess it's more realistic when like he can't stop laughing so they beat him up. But I also think it's kind of weird, like, oh, he can't stop laughing, so they beat him up. It's kind of, I don't know. That one kind of makes a little bit more sense. But, and then, yeah, the issues with his mom and the dad, and I guess you could say it's societal because Thomas Wayne is rich, so that means he was an asshole and left him and his mom. I guess maybe you could kind of make that argument, but it seems like most of his issues, even if he was born with a lot of money, like he'd still be fucked up. Only, like, if you gave him money, it wouldn't go from being Joker to like him being like a stable, good person. It would go from Joker to American Psycho. It's like he's still fucked up, maybe killing people, but now he's rich and he works at a Fortune 500 company. Like,
not only that, but that entire dynamic is also, it's meant, I think what it's trying to telegraph is that dynamic is the equivalent of Joker realizing the inequalities in our class of society. But that's not, and I think the movie wants you to think that and it be an allegory for that, but really it's just, again, drawn down to a personal matter.
Yeah.
That Arthur is just pissed off at Thomas Wayne
because he was his
not
dad,
because
and
of the
left
money,
him.
but because he just left them.
I'm really sick and tired of films doing this. Maybe it's an American film thing where it's like you start off trying to say big things and then boil it down to like family disputes. Like, oh, you were actually my I feel like it takes away from the point of everything. Like, I don't know, like, let's say like Parasite. It's like, oh, it actually turned out that I don't know, the rich the dad is actually the father to whatever. Like, I don't know, like it removes it from being like a political commentary to family commentary. And I feel like films
like Black Panther.
Yeah, I feel like Black Panther did that. I won't name another film because you'll get mad. It's a Marvel film.
You feel Civil War did that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Black Panther.
I acknowledge that the film did that. I think in that film, I think it worked to its advantage, but that's a different discussion for another day.
But yeah, that's another reason why it was hard to connect with Black Panther. And I think we've talked about this ad nauseum with Black Panther, because it's like, instead of it.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Instead of it being like a genuine like political discussion between, these political figures, T'Challa and I forgot the other one, the villain's name.
I'm thinking.
Killmonger.
Give me a second. Killmonger. Okay.
Between those two, it was just more of like, your dad killed my dad, revenge. And it's like, and then they'll give, vague comments to larger political stuff. But then it'll always just come down to personal disagreement.
I just think, look, why can't you just do both? Why do you have to forego the political intrigue and just dial it down to a personal thing? The politics in and of itself can be personal to the characters if you make it so.
I think Parasite did that, though. Like, I think they did it's not about who's related to who and or the personal slight they did against each other. The rich family didn't screw over the poor family in Parasite. They're just a perfectly nice, normal, rich family. They just happen to be rich. And, the poor family just happens to be poor, and that's why they latch onto them. But because they latched onto them, that creates drama and interpersonal, clashing between the two. So I think that's why I say I think that film did it really, really well. And that's why I'm like, is it an American thing that we feel like, I feel like maybe we can trace it all the way back to Star Wars or maybe even previous films where everyone feels like...
Well, I just think back to Star Wars because look at what just happened with Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah. Where it's like...
I mean...
The most interesting thing they thought it could be was... You're related to the bad guy, because we've never seen that in Star Wars before. And... and like... So many... I feel a lot of media in the United States especially is like who your family is. And there's a lot of great films about that, and I think that's awesome. But with these films in particular, when you're trying to talk about broad societal things, I feel like it takes away in a lot of ways. I think Parasite did it perfectly, but I think things like Joker and Black Panther take away from what would be much more interesting narrative and point to what they're trying to say by trying to shove in family backstabs and stuff like that.
And then even more to the point, when he's on that couch on the night show and he's going on this monologue.
Oh yeah.
So two things happen there. So okay, this is strange. So he is unloading on the people there about how nobody gives a shit about us, how you rich people don't give a shit about us. One, that makes no sense for him to say that, because this movie has shown us that's not something he's even given any thought about. There are all of the issues that he has had in this movie have been entirely personal, not at all connected to the riots or the protests or the political movements that are happening in Gotham City. And so he is just throwing out all of these things that don't really apply to him, and then it triggers an explosive reaction all across Gotham. And then these people hail him as a cult leader.
Yeah. Like, to me, this is why I find it kind of weird. Like, a lot of, like, lefties like this film, and they're like,
Michael Moore,
yeah.
who I love Michael Moore. I don't know what the fuck he was talking about. That's not the movie that I saw.
No, there's so many lefties that really like this, and I'm like, this feels like it was made by a conservative to be like, look at those dumb cultist Bernie bros that'll lead us to our destruction. Yeah.
Yes, I felt personally attacked when I saw that. Maybe that's why I'm like, maybe that's how I felt like I felt. You know, in that ridiculous moment when you saw Lego Movie, when you saw the Lego Batman movie with Kyle, and how they attacked Doctor Who fans because of the Daleks. That's how I felt when that whole thing was happening, the rampage on Gotham City.
But I think I don't blame them too much, because I think the film very much frames it in the opposite, where it's like, oh yeah, like uprising, but it doesn't feel. It feels like it feels like the opposite to that, what I was saying initially, where it's like, this is why you should be scared of the Bernie Bros / Antifa. You know, they're crazy cult leaders that'll just start rioting and attacking rich people for the fuck of it. Like, that's the way it came off. And
that's why it's incoherent.
It feels incoherent, because it's like, if I'm being charitable, I actually would really love to, because I have not seen anyone's takes really, like breakdown videos of the people that loved it. I'm gonna go back and watch a lot of those, and maybe I'll be convinced and my opinion might change. But like, if I'm being super charitable to the
Patrick Willems, if you dare make a video about the Joker.
No, I don't think he liked it that much. He gave it like 2 stars, maybe 2.5 stars.
In that case, go ahead, make a video about the Joker.
Make a video about the Joker. No, but with it, I think the nicest thing I could or say about it, like if I'm guessing what the film is going for, is because he says he doesn't have a coherent message, and then he goes off and makes like a big political rousing speech. And okay, let's say both those things are true. Let's say the point of the film is that the way society is structured, a lot of people fall through the cracks, and because they fall through the cracks, they feel helpless, and they become raging, they become dangerous loose cannons, such as the Joker. In which case, this kind of feels like, I don't know, like a school shooter movie? Like, same energy, kind of? I don't know. Like, if I'm guessing, like, that's probably the main, what they're going for. Yeah, I don't hate the film. It's a weird film for me. It definitely is. 'Cause it is, I like the look of the film. I think it's shot well, but I also think what they did with it, they could have done more interesting, unique, and weird things with it. I think that definitely could have kicked up the score from me a little bit.
I think it's especially disappointing because the movie was sold on the premise that because it was not going to be tied to any other movie, that it could go in that direction. And by all intents and purposes, WB was all for At least
Well,
at the end, anyway. Well, I mean,
they kind of didn't want this film to happen in the first place.
They didn't want it to happen. That is true, but they let Todd Phillips do whatever he wanted. Granted, so I think the missed opportunity is that they fucking picked Todd Phillips to do this versus somebody else who probably could have made a much more interesting film, given the parameters of which they were allowed to operate under. And it's also just disappointing because this is, I think, the model for what you could do with comic book movies going forward, to break the mold and to do interesting and new things with it. And then you do this, which evidently did the trick for many industry people, but I don't care about the movie. I think that's just what I'm saying. What I do care about is just the stupid nature surrounding it. But
that's what I care about the least. That's the thing. It's like, first of all, the people that were really hyping up this film is like, oh, they're like I agree with a lot of people out there. It really did feel like the media fucking wanted there to be some sort of shooting or something. Like, holy shit. And then, of course, because you're hyping it up like that, you're going to make the assholes on the other side start hyping up the film. And then it becomes, like, I disagree with both.
Well, to be fair, I'm not referring to those people. When I'm saying that's what I care about the most, I was referring to the industry people
who loved it?
Who think that this was a film that was one of the best movies of the year.
I mean, obviously, I disagree.
Yeah. That whole controversy, forget about it. It's not even worth getting into.
Yeah.
It's just leave it in the past. I will say, poor Shazam. That movie has been all but forgotten, and it was the better movie.
It was. Oh my god! It was easily the better movie. Oh, by a million miles. But it's very much that kind of film that I understand why people flock to it. Like, when I see it, it's like, okay, this, with all how fucking annoying the discourse is, it makes sense why it won the awards that it did, why so many people hate it, why so many people love it, why it's this, why it's that. I get why. Especially, taking into consideration the day and age we are in, discourse, all that stupid shit. But at the end of the day, like, honestly, God, if it was a film just named like Crazy Clown Man, I'd probably still go watch it, be like, oh, okay, I was entertained. And then I'd go home and I'd forget and I'd be okay. I'd be entertained for a Thursday night and then move on with my life. But yeah, I don't know. But at the very least, hopefully this means more risks in the future.
Right, yes.
With these sort of properties. I'm telling you guys, if you guys have like a small script out there that you're trying to get fucking made, pitch it to one of these studios, fucking scratch names out, write in the Penguin or whatever, and then just submit it, and then you'll get your movie made. Hopefully, you might have a better chance of it getting made that way. It'll still be the same movie, only the ruthless businessman is now named the Penguin. And maybe you need to include a scene where Batman shows up, but you have your crime drama film that you made. Yeah.
If anything, the fact that this movie made $1 billion would embolden WB to open up the pocketbook and try more of this.
That's the hope. I think this has a good shot at Best Picture. I think it'll probably come in second. Maybe behind 1917.
It is loved.
It's very loved. Joaquin's Phoenix performance was good. I wasn't blown away.
Oh, we didn't even talk about that performance
because I wasn't blown away by it. Like, it was good. But I was like, okay, yeah, he's being a crazy guy. It's definitely real crazy.
it's a good performance.
It's good. It's definitely good.
Unlike everybody else, I can't bring myself to say that I was in love with it or blown away. It wasn't anything that I hadn't already seen.
I wasn't.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I wasn't enthralled or anything like that. The way he did the laugh, like where he couldn't control it, like that was interesting. And of course, the Academy loves performances where you transform. So of course they would love something
unless of course it involves motion capture.
Yeah, then fuck that. But yeah, it's okay. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've said everything with the film.
One more thing to say about this. Not what I found interesting is how our group has kind of been divided by this movie. Because I'm telling you, it's surprising who liked it and who didn't like it.
Really? I know this seems like a film that Kyle would love.
Kyle liked it. David liked it.
Okay.
We know Julio liked it, but he doesn't really count. He's not really a person.
Rude.
Nettie, who is our resident film major, liked this movie a lot.
Oh, okay.
But you and I were clearly not as hot on it, and surprisingly enough, even Alexis Moreno was not hot on this movie.
Maybe we're wrong. It's the three who know the least about films.
Oh, fuck you.
I included myself in that.
Yeah. So that's I don't know. Usually I think our group is kind of, toe and toe in terms of like what we like in movies.
Somewhat.
But every now and then there'll be one where they'll be divisive, or one that will we, love universally. So let's move on to The Lighthouse. An experience masquerading as a film. Peter, take it away.
The Lighthouse, directed by Robert Eggers.
Oh, that's right. That's the guy's name.
There is enchantment in the light.
Fuck.
Two lighthouse keepers try to maintain their sanity while living on a remote and mysterious New England island in the 1890s. The Lighthouse. How did you feel about the film? I'm actually really, really, really curious how you, Mr. Alexis D. Soto, feel about this film.
Well, this one was interesting to stomach.
Oof, that doesn't sound good.
No. This was one of those classic examples where you see something and you're saying to yourself the entire time, well, I don't know what I expected. Let me tell you this. And this is honest to God my reaction. I had more fun thinking about the film than watching it, if that makes sense.
I think I understand what you're trying to say.
So it was much more interesting unraveling what it was that what happened. I mean, what the whole thing was. Hearing podcast discussions and all of the different little aspects of the film and all the things that went into making it, that made me appreciate this much more. But I think, I don't know, my feelings are complicated because I'm not going to say that I disliked it, because I genuinely had one of those, like, this is an experience. I said this to Kyle. It's kind of like Cats. It kind of needs to be seen to be believed.
Yeah.
It needs to be experienced. It doesn't operate for me as kind of like a film. It's just I'm not going to say an ordeal, but it's an experience to go through that. And it very much came across as like Shining, but at sea. with all of the weird shit that was going on. There's a lot, I feel, from a crafts perspective, from a filmmaking perspective, from an acting perspective, to absolutely praise for this in terms of the production and the direction. And this is one of those films that is very much made to feel chaotic.
Oh, yeah.
And crazy. And it is very effective in doing that. It is very effective at disorienting you. I wouldn't say that I was unnerved, but I was definitely confused.
Oh, that's a ringing endorsement.
Overall, the performances by Pattinson and Dafoe were great. It was fun watching them. And, I mean, the movie is interesting because it is a horror film.
Mm-hmm. Well,
psychological horror.
Yeah. Psychological
horror in a way. Because it is kind of a descent into insanity. That's kind of what the movie is. But it's also weirdly funny in spaces.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Well,
which I didn't expect.
I think I pitched it to you as the Shining Sea edition.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is a good amount of humor. Anything else you felt about it?
I think what I want to come across is
that you hated it.
No. If I hated it, I would be here saying that I hated it. When I saw it initially, I cared very little for anything. I cared very little for really any of it. And I was like, I'll probably never watch that again. Let's move on. But it did pique my curiosity. And I did go back and hear discussions on the film and podcasts about overall what the film was getting at. And the more I heard other people discuss what they liked about the film, the more I understood, oh, okay. And that's true. And the more I was like, okay, I definitely get the appeal of it.
Okay.
But it's not something that I think is entirely for me as far as a film that I would ever revisit again.
Okay.
That probably sounds mixed.
Yeah, it sounds.
But
mixed.
Overall, it's
vaguely positive.
Yeah, I guess. I get.
Well, okay. Well, I'll just go ahead and say why you're wrong then.
Peter, we've been doing this show for I don't know how many years.
Yeah.
Every review, it's always like, well, let me sit back and tell you why you're wrong. Okay.
Yeah.
Even though I just praised a lot about this movie and a lot of the things that you're going to agree on, so I'm not necessarily sure what it is that I'm wrong about. In fact, the most negative thing that I've said about this is that it's just not for me as a film. But that being said,
well, that's why
so many times
that's why you're wrong. It should be.
So many times I said to myself, God, Peter is fucking loving this thing. I don't even.
True.
This is one up your alley entirely.
Abso-freaking-talutely. I love this film. Love. I've seen it twice. I'm surprised that you found so much of it so boring, because I was captivated by the film the entire time.
Can I clarify something? Wait, hold on a minute.
Okay.
Hold on.
Okay, go ahead.
Wait, hold on. I never used that word.
You never used it.
I never used that word. I didn't say I was bored. I said I didn't care.
Okay. Well,
I think there's a distinction in there somewhere. We'll let the people figure that out.
Well, I will have the courage that you did not, and I will label it for you. You claimed it to be boring. Okay. But
I was never once bored. I never said that word. I was never once bored in the duration of watching this film. When I say that I don't care, I mean that at the end of the film, I left it left me with a feeling of, okay, all right, let's move on with my life.
Okay. I never once didn't care the entire time I watched the film. I'll use your language if you wish. Like from the first shot to the amazing score, the mysterious and overbearing what's it called? Horn that blasts throughout the entire film. You know, it opens up in black and white as the fog moves aside, and you know, you see a ship in the distance, and then you know it comes in without words. You see our two really only characters. I forgot their names. Thomas Howard and Thomas Wake, both named Thomas. I wonder if that means anything. I forgot the other name he gave. Ephraim Winslow. Winslow lad. He believed there be an enchantment in the light. And
I'm sorry. I don't know how Kyle Lira got into the room.
I know, right?
Oh my god.
He didn't he didn't show up because he needed a nappy time. So I'm gonna have to step in for him here. I was endlessly enthralled by this film. Like from both those characters, anytime they'd interact, like I was glued to the screen. I found their interactions, their characters really interesting, really funny. Like you claim this was the good parts, just trying to unravel what exactly is going on, and what the point of it all is. It was shot beautifully. The use of a light, I think, was really well done. I love how when they're in the cabin at night, the only light you see is from the little candles that they lit. There's no artificial lighting going on anywhere. Just the tiny ways with which it ramps up tension and paranoia, and the way it plays with the mythology that a lot of men of the sea had at that time, with sirens, you know, / mermaids, enchantments, and you know, their superstitions. And similarly, I think this is why I felt this is very similar to The Shining. It's very much a descent into madness, and you know, you're left thinking most of the film, you know, is this supernatural or are these guys just fucking crazy? And then you're left with an ending where you're just kind of like, well, what the fuck? That didn't explain much. But I loved it. Well, that's how I felt with both films. And then, of course, you know, you go back and you think about it, you peel back layers, you listen to other people's interpretations. I loved listening to the director, and the way he really broke down what the film was and what he intended to do with it. Like I said, I thought it was very funny. It has one of the best curses ever handed out in a film. Yeah. Never talk trash about another man's cooking. Okay, never do it. I enjoyed the shit out of it. That's just my initial throwing down the gauntlet for this film. I thought it was great. I loved it. Robert Eggers. They need to get you on a Star War pronto. Let's do this. Yeah.
Yeah. Technically speaking, this is great on just about every level, and I do agree with most of the major points that you said. I think it is a master class of ramping up tension. And I think what I see in this movie is, the things he's going to make. And this included. And I take nothing away from this movie. I definitely understand the appeal, especially for you. And I enjoyed myself going back, revisiting certain elements, and like, oh, okay, yeah. And it's interesting. And you actually make it sound a lot more interesting than it felt watching it. So there's that.
Man, you sound like you're reviewing 1917.
Did you hear that review?
No, but I assume it sounds exactly like this.
Probably. Although that would be, I think, a little unfair because I did enjoy this much more than 1917. Oh, okay. Only because we had fucking characters.
Yeah.
You know? That's there, and I do think it is, part of the DNA of the movie is messing with you and confusing you, and the whole time it is stringing you along about what exactly, things like what's in that lighthouse. Does it matter what's in that lighthouse? Is this guy going insane? Are they both going insane? Which one is lying? Which one's telling the truth? Is there a point to any of this? And ultimately, it ended in exactly the way that I thought it would end. Which is like, and that's fine because really I don't need answers for the movie to be good or great. But I would say that what was missing from me was the feeling that you had, which is what you were entirely enthralled from beginning to middle and end. There were places where I was like, going in and out of the movie in terms of like, okay, I'm on this, I'm off that. This part's captivating, this part not so much. Yeah. I will say though, some of the most entertaining moments when those two are getting plastered.
Oh yes.
And there's some, the movie is beautiful, by the way. The making this movie black and white, and then also in the aspect ratio that is in, I think is an inspired choice. I think it also adds to the environment of the movie. But then there's just some weird out of left field shots, like William Dafoe in a mermaid costume and laughing.
He was Triton, the sea god.
And then there was a weird shot of him naked, and then his a light beaming out of his head. And like, whoa.
Yeah, this is what I mean about like with Joker. It's like do more interesting,
right? Shit
like that, where it's
like, and that was interesting.
You see the way he's breaking down, basically. I guess this is more for Kyle if he ever listens to this. You know how I feel about mermaids in Pirates 4. I feel like this film did They did the impossible and they went up to them mermaid wise. Yeah.
Well, it's that's kind of what I wanted to have him on the show. And he was going to be on the show because it seems like he really enjoyed The Lighthouse.
Yeah.
But apparently it's 9:46 p.m. and he had to go to bed. It's
Mimi time. Yeah. Oh no. Got to be in bed before 7:30.
And I think it was 7:30 when we logged off. Because we were recording Who Knows.
So. Well, baby needs his 10 hours of sleepy time.
Yeah, look, I take nothing away from it. I think the only thing is that I agree basically on all your main points. I just, for whatever reason, I didn't love it. You know? And that's just kind of what it comes down to. But I
will say that happens a lot with me, where it's like I see a film and it's like, I mean, I agree with everyone. It's amazing, but I just don't care. It just didn't connect with me. Like that, I feel like that happens a lot with me, like more often than not. Like everyone's like, "Oh, this movie's amazing. It's amazing." And I watch it, I'm like, "It is amazing," but I don't care. Like there's so many films that are far worse that I would watch again or care a lot more than this other amazing film. But so I get what you mean with that. Yeah.
I'll tell you this: if we ever, for whatever reason, I decide to revisit this again, I may like it more. And you know what? I may like it more as time goes on, because I know initially I wasn't too hot on Phantom Thread. And I still only saw it the first time, but the more I think about the movie, the more I actually like the movie.
I
know?
really liked Phantom Thread. Oh, there was some good shit in Phantom Thread.
So I just think it just comes with time. And this is one of those movies that is, I think, very much meant to be digest. And maybe I'm at the point where I haven't fully digested what it was that I saw. Again, it's an experience. I mean, and I definitely recommend this if you're looking for something kooky and wacky. But also, it's not kooky and wacky for the sake of being weird. It is a very competently made film. It's a wonderfully directed and written movie. And
it's one of those films where it's difficult to piece out what it means, but because it's so
like The Shining?
Like The Shining, but because it's so expertly put together, you never doubt that there is there is purpose to the film.
Right.
It's just much more about interpreting it than what a standard film would be, which I think is fine. I think it's fun. There's little tidbits that the directors said. I think Robert Pattinson said like the Lighthouse, even in the script it had written that it had been intended to look phallic. And you know, there's always this sort of like these sexual undertones between him and and I think the director very clearly said they're not gay, but it's much more of like just he explained it really well, and I can't remember. It wasn't meant to imply that like, oh, they're gay and they have this relationship, or like they're falling in love or anything like that. It's just more of like desperation for human contact, or you know,
I think that's what
that
happens when you have two human beings that have been
Yeah.
isolated for a long time. It's just a natural gravitation, because at one point they nearly kiss.
Yeah, they go from killing each other to almost kissing each other, which, I mean, if they I got a docket like 4 points for not getting a Pattinson Defoe smooch into the film. There better be a deleted scene, god damn it. Of just a tiny, just a little just a tiny mwah, just that. That's all I need.
The movie is also very crass.
Oh yeah.
I mean, overtly crass, like piss, shit, farts, like God. I mean, a lot.
When he threw the buckets and the wind blew it back in his face. Oh my god. But like, it's so dumb, but like, it's just little things that I notice and I really, really like. Like when he sees the mermaid on the rocks.
Uh-huh.
And then like he goes to her and he realizes she's a mermaid, and like he runs away, and just like the way the sound just falls away completely, and it's just her screeching and like the loud of the and then like at the very end of the shot, like he screams, and right as he screams it matches up perfectly with the horn of the lighthouse.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, the phallic state of the lighthouse, you know, wink, wink, hint, hint, how they're connected. So it's like, it's very much an expertly made film, I feel. And like, this is like his second movie. His debut was The Witch, which was also an amazing film. So like, this guy is going places fast. Hopefully, you know, they need to start giving him more awards and shit. Get his name out there. But no, I very much like his films. I think they're really good. I really like this one. I'm not going to dive into like what I think shit might mean, because I don't think I've digested it nearly enough. I saw it twice, but every time I'm just so interested in like the surface level shit and like the characters. And I just find them so funny, and their interactions so interesting, that I end up paying attention to that. But I do want to read a review off Letterboxd. I don't even know if I agree with this. I just thought it was funny. It's from, oh God, where is it? From Esther off Letterboxd. This was her review. Idiots will call this a staggering retelling of the myth of Prometheus through the eyes of the American laborer, the fire of the gods.
What?
The fire of the gods becoming success under capitalism, an unattainable fiction that drives men to maddened violence in their pursuit. Geniuses will understand that this is a movie about getting drunk and almost kissing your homie, and then getting even drunker and tenderly holding each other as you drift off to sleep. That's an A+ review right there. I endorse it. That's a good review. But yeah, I mean the allusions to the myth of Prometheus are like extremely obvious. Zeus and the gods. Prometheus was one of the gods, and he stole fire from the gods and gave it as a gift to the humans. And for doing that, Zeus tied him to rocks, where every day he will be eaten. His gullet will be eaten by a giant bird, and then he will, because he's a god, he'll never die. So that his punishment for all eternity was to be tied to the rock and be eaten by the birds. And that's Ephraim's fate.
But is it? So that was like, okay, is that meant to be literal?
What do you mean?
The last shot of Ephraim.
Well, again, it's like, is the last shot of Jack in the painting meant to be literal? I don't know. But if you recall, like, the curse that what's his name puts on him, like, is literally exactly what happens to him in the end.
Right.
Funny foreshadowing in that aspect. But yeah, the director specifically said that he was Robert Pattinson's character was modeled somewhat over after Prometheus, and Thomas, the other one, was Defoe's character was modeled after another god, like it was like keeper of the knowledge of the sea. Yeah, it's basically not Triton himself, but another one that, you know, yeah, keeper of the knowledge of the sea. I don't know how else to
Poseidon?
say it. No, not Poseidon. I think like another god. He contained all the knowledge that there was to the sea, but he wasn't the ruler of the sea. I can't remember the name of the god's name, but yeah, I had read it in one of his interviews, and yeah. Again, I don't think it's a literal retelling. It's not like fucking Mother, where it's a literal retelling of the Bible. Oh, that's another film I was going to bring up earlier when I'm talking about Joker, where with that film, it's extremely overt, like the point of the film and what it's trying to say, but everything else surrounding the film is so interesting and weird and well executed, and it's a really like uniquely made film that it makes up for it, right? Like that's, it balances out. Like it's blunt, but the filmmaking is blunt as well. And I think that's what Joker needed. To go back to Joker a little bit. But yeah.
So it is my expectation that you loved this movie so much that it's in contention for your favorite movie of 2019?
Well, as you know, or though I don't know because you never read the fucking messages I send, I have completed my top 10 of
okay, well,
2019.
this I can dispute, because if you would listen to the podcasts that you aren't on, you would know that in the previous podcast with me and David, I told him in real time when you had sent that message that you had confirmed that you finished your top 10 list. That's on the tape. You can check the tape whenever it is that you want, and that's irrefutable evidence that I do in fact read your messages. And when I said in that recording is that I was shocked because I wasn't expecting you to turn in your list until at least early April.
You are fake news.
I mean,
I turned it in early, and I saw more films than I have since we started doing this. So there you go.
since we started doing what?
Since we started doing the top 10 list
You mean
of the
which
year.
one? Oh.
Since we started doing that on the show.
Okay. What about Little Women?
Little Women? Oh fuck. I still gotta watch it. I will watch it. I don't know. It might change my list around. We'll see. I'm pretty confident in the top 10 that I have right now, but everyone says it's really good. And I have
But I'm sure you have a
reason.
long laundry list of honorable mentions as you usually do.
I mean, I'll be honest, this top 10 was pretty tough. There's already about 2 films that I feel real bad that did not make the top 10.
I'm still in that phase. I'm at the point where I have 11.
Yeah.
I need to kick one out. To make the first 10 and the second 10. So I'm at the point of rewatching all the movies that are at least in that 20, just to make sure that I have a fix on where it is that I'm at. And honestly, it almost feels as if by the time that I finish, I may have seen every movie at least twice or 3 times.
Yeah.
Which is not usually the norm. Also, are you going to see the extended cut of Doctor Sleep before we do the show? Or you don't feel you need to actually take that into account?
Do you think that would change the way I felt about the film? Because I think you know how I feel about the film.
I don't think so. I mean, I just want you to see it so we can talk about it.
Do you think it would cause a significant change in any one direction?
No. I mean,
Okay.
No. I think it's difficult to articulate because on one hand, I may prefer, there are certain decisions that I preferred in the theatrical cut, but there are some things that I actually liked better in the director's cut.
Oh, that's so frustrating when that happens.
Yes.
Because it's like, oh, I love that they added this, but they should have kept this other thing the same or just not added this.
There's just one example, real quick. They do a quick flash forward earlier in the movie to the Overlook Hotel. And I'm like, but it worked better when you save the reveal to the very third act of the film.
Yeah. Without having even seen it, I agree. I think it worked so well in the film where it's just like, fuck, we got to go back. And then, as he's driving, boom, 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 just
it's the
all
same
freaking
film.
Operatic.
It's the same film, but there's just more of it. And I think there's more time. I think just about every scene is longer. And not just any scene, the important scenes that are actually captivating conversations. There is more expanded upon, like the scene between Danny and his father and the Overlook is extended, much more extended.
Ooh, okay.
And there's even more talk about the abilities and powers that Danny has. I think there's some extra stuff in there, as well as with Wendy, his mother, and how what happened to them after, and like there's more detail, and you sit with it longer because it's a 3-hour cut, so it almost feels like very much this is the preferred version of Mike Flanagan. 3 hours.
Well, director's cut.
I mean, clearly. But it moves very well for a 3-hour cut. It's the exact same film. Nothing monumental changes, but it adds more detail and maybe even more nuance to it. But I don't think it'll shift your view of the movie dramatically. I just want you to see it so we can actually talk about it. That's all I care about,
No, but I definitely want to see it. I just the only reason I ask is to see if it's like, okay, I need to watch it
right now.
Right now.
No,
you know,
no.
And it's like, if not, you know, I don't want to rush it, because at this point it almost feels like a chore to watch the last few movies. And it gets like that, and it gets worse and worse every year. To be fair, though, it does not affect, I feel, how I feel about the films that much, because that was one of the last films I saw on my list that made it on my top 10 in a very high position. So it's like
The Lighthouse.
Yeah. Well, we'll see, won't we?
It's not a fucking question, Peter. It's not a question. It's at least it's at least top 5 for you.
I guess we'll find out, you know? I guess we'll find out.
It's interesting, you know, because we're heading toward it now. We're getting closer and closer to it. This might be the most interesting lists we've done for a top 10.
Yeah. I think mine definitely has a couple curveballs, just thinking about
Kyle apparently is going to have one curveball or one fur ball, shall we say.
He literally was like, Cats is going to be in my top 10. Like, yeah, we know Kyle. To be fair, I had a great time watching Cats.
Unforgettable. And from what I think I was reading today, it's already becoming a midnight hit.
I think that's awesome. I hope this film gets all the success in the world. Because you know what? I give a fuck about entertaining films, okay? Like, if there's ever a chance to go to a freaking midnight screening, get drunk, the whole audience is singing, awesome. I'm there. I like fun films. That was a fun film.
We'll see if there's a screening we can all go in and see and sing Mr. Mistopheles.
Julio will be the guest of honor.
Well, I mean, he's not a person, so, you know,
that's true.
At that point.
Quick note, just so anyone who listens knows, we took Julio to see this, and about 10 times he tried to get us to leave the theater during the film, because he was so unhappy with the film we were watching.
Because he was expecting, I don't know, a competent made movie.
I mean, those dance skills, though, I don't know. Touch me. It's so easy. The singing was good. Oh my god, I would kill if what's her name got an Academy nomination for fucking Cats.
Not all of the singing was good.
No, not all of it. No, not all of it. But what's her name did? I always forget her name. Jennifer Hudson.
Yeah, it was Rebel Wilson that sang the best, right?
Oh yeah, Rebel Wilson. Yeah, that was the best part of the film. Okay,
we're done. Yes, we're done?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Peter, for being here and letting us know in advance that The Lighthouse is your favorite film of the year. And thank you all for listening on this wonderful podcast. Check in week to week. We should be hearing from the Academy pretty soon, and we're going to have some thoughts about that, as well as, you know, our long-awaited top 10 films of the year. It's so strange, I will say, that it seems as if collectively we've all individually seen more movies than last year, and yet it's going to come in way earlier than last year.
Yeah.
Which is so strange.
Oh, yeah.
That's really okay. But I can't wait for those episodes. Thank you all for listening. Stay out of the spotlight every single Sunday wherever you listen to podcasts. Bye-bye.